Hello and welcome everyone to the first episode of a new series where I will be going over everything that I like and dislike about every single faction in Heroes of Might and Magic 3. The first episode is all about Tower, and this faction, my first impression of it every single time is that when I load into any Tower biome, I get flashbanged immediately. I play with a pretty huge screen, and the lighting, the absolute pure white pixels from the snow terrain completely overtake any other lighting that I have in the room. And honestly, getting flashbanged by this faction feels pretty bad. So whenever you're playing a template that has, a lot of your starting time gameplay, such as basically an Ajibus map, you're going to be having like a pretty bad time in case your setup is anything similar to mine. Tower has a few available playstyles, the most popular of which will be to farm Master Genie lamps. They will let you recruit 4 to 7 Master Genies immediately. If you get a few of these, you will be having a good enough power stack of those in order to one-shot most things that you come across, and it's the most powerful way for Tower to play. However, not all templates have them. Another popular way to play Tower is actually to build up Titans. This didn't used to be that popular back in Shadow of Death when you still had to build the Magi in order to get up the Titans, but now because that's no longer a prerequisite, you can actually do so fairly easily. Both playstyles are pretty good, and most of the time in longer format maps or more poor maps, you're going to be building up a Mage Guild as Tower as well. And all of that actually plays pretty well, and it feels decently fine. The biggest problem is, once again, the tower terrain. Because they are not native to any popular creatures such as Cyclops, Wyverns, Angels, they tend to actually be really slow whenever they get a creature bank army. So by the time they actually get some creature bank army, they really want to be off of snow, or they want to find a different way to handle the terrain penalty. This is not really a big issue when it comes to one-hero templates like Duel, but it tends to be the main issue when playing Jeebus style maps. Apart from terrain, one of the main issues that Tau faces is the lack of good heroes. Alchemists and wizards just don't really scale that well. They don't roll into skills that you would like to have, and they start off with pretty bad skills as well. The one exception is of course going to be Solmir. We all remember him dearly from way back when. He is the chain lightning specialist, and he's awesome, honestly. He can play some early fights for you, however, usually want to build someone else into your main. That means it's gonna be up to RNG if you can find anyone in the tavern, and of course if you're playing a one hero format, you're gonna be stuck with one of the tower heroes, which is not exactly very good. The units of tower are kind of all over the place. First off is we have the Master Gremlin. By the way, gremlins don't exist. Like the unupgraded version, not a unit. But the Master Gremlins are really cool. They do a lot of damage, and you get a lot of them, and they are the main carry of Tower early game. There's one very distinct feature that they're lacking, and that is their shot count. You only have 8 shots instead of the regular 24 that most range units get. So if you want to take on tanky things, such as Dendroids or Golems by kiting them around, you're going to have to bring an ammo cart. Now, thankfully for Tower, they can actually build one off of their blacksmith. But more often than not, you don't really want to build a blacksmith because that will delay either your army or your mage guild, and that is not desirable. So that's Gremlins. Next up is we have the Gargoyles. Gargoyles are my least favorite unit of Tower. They don't exactly have an identity. They're not tanky, they don't deal damage, they're not really that fast. They are basically just there to give to your side heroes as one stack and pretty much nothing else. They don't really do a lot for you at all. They honestly feel pretty bad. They kind of die easy. They are pretty hard to manage, like they don't deal any damage, and yeah, just kind of whatever. Bad units. But next up is we have the Golem. Now these units have an identity, and boy do they carry their identity out really well. They are super tanky, they will protect all your range army, and they will do it well. And also, whenever you're going to be trading offensive spellcasting, you versus the opponent, golems will be the last unit standing. And honestly, really impressive. Great units. Despite being slow and clunky, they accomplish the role that they're supposed to fill really well. I like them. Next up is we have the Magi. Magi have one of the coolest abilities in the entire game. They reduce your mana cost by a flat 2 for everything. Meaning, if you're gonna be like magic arrow spamming, you're literally getting a 50% discount for your magic arrows. Or like whatever early game boss you're gonna be using. That is insanely good, especially for like an early game unit. Their main, disadvantage is the fact that nobody ever builds these guys. If you get some off of like a mercenary camp, or maybe you get some off of a dwelling, an external dwelling, then they can be good to have in low quantities. However, building into them is not realistic. Their resource cost is insane. You have to pay so much for the dwelling, it makes them bad just from that alone. It's pretty sad to see such a cool unit be not viable because of such a pretty silly reason, I would say. Next up is we have the Master Genies. I mean, these units, everyone knows them, they're amazing. They give you like, they can cast 3 times and they can give you a random buff. And if you have plenty of 1 stacks of Master Genies, it can give you pretty much every single buff in the game. And it can make like 100 gremlins deal like 1000 damage. It's really ludicrously good. They have these guys. They're like one of the best utility in the game. They're super fast, and honestly, if you get enough of them, they even deal a lot of damage. So honestly, like all around, great units. Like one of the best units that Tower has to offer. Next up is we have the Nagas, and Nagas are some of the best units in the game. They are really tanky, they deal a lot of damage, and they have like a very good special ability because they do not take any retaliations. The main drawback of Naga is their cost and also their low movement. The low movement can be made up for by the Master Genie buff, so honestly, in Tower Faction, Naga Queens sometimes are the endgame power stat that you're using, but if you have enough gold, then you can go for Titanil! Some of the best units in the game. They are super iconic, and they are tied for the strongest monster in the game. Well, I'd say about time. They have the advantage of being ranged, so they can actually deal damage without taking any damage. They are really tanky, and they actually don't even suffer anything in melee, so they can just beat someone down melee range as well. They are really cool, like both thematically, in the game. Of course, their main drawback is their cost. And also the fact they're on the Tower Faction, which is on snow, which is undesirable. But anyway, like really awesome units. And I would say that most of the tower units actually work pretty well. And it's really cool that they have something exceptional in the form of the Titan. I said some good things, I said some bad things about the Tower faction, but my overall feel for the faction is that I usually do not want to play it. Whenever I roll it in the town trade, I'm gonna be very likely banning it away. And if I am forced to play it basically, I'm gonna be usually betting for the other faction, or maybe just passing early so the opponent can take it for himself. So I don't really know why I dislike this faction. It's a combination of like a few things, I believe. You have to be like really crafty to play Tower well, as then you have to like micromanage your kiting really well because you're gonna be dying. If your master guns get hit even once, you're gonna be botching your entire early game. So they're like a really sensitive faction, and they don't feel like they deal a lot of damage at all because their heroes end up being 0 might. And that combined with this no terrain, it being bad to actually play and bad to look at, makes the faction experience not really that awesome. And if it wasn't for Titans, I would probably not even like this faction at all in any way. So yeah, this was my rant about the Tall faction. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you look forward to the next ones as well. Please subscribe to my YouTube and follow me on Twitch. I stream basically every single day. Until next time, goodbye.